It is rare to find so much industry expertise all in one spot, right at your fingertips. The world of public adjusting and insurance claims can be a scary one. This changes now. That's why we built this podcast for you, where all the industry experts converge. Let us be your guide to education and personal growth. You're listening to Because Experience Matters, the show for public adjusters who want to up their game. Hosted by the 2021 Public Adjuster of the Year, Jack Hanks. How much money are you leaving on the table by not knowing all the approaches you can take to maximize the payouts to the insured and profits for your business? On this show, you will discover untapped strategies to become an unstoppable public adjuster and an effective advocate for your clients. In every episode, Jack brings on all the industry big dogs, including leading roofers, contractors, lawyers, accountants, and marketers. You'll access the insider scoop, real case studies, real obstacles, and actionable winning solutions. Let's jump in so that you can stop working hard and start working smart.
All right, guys, Jack Hanks, Because Experience Matters podcast. Today we have a very, very special guest, one of my new favorite attorneys, my Miami Hurricane buddy. I want to introduce you guys to Chad Robinson. He's a little superstar down in Miami, kind of under the radar, but becoming more prevalent in the last couple of years here around us. So, Chad, welcome aboard.
Thanks. It's good to be here, Jack. Thanks for the invite, man. And yeah, it's I'm in Miami. Well, I'm close to Miami. I'm in Boca, but we do stuff all around the state of Florida and venturing out into other states. And I like to say I'm in South Florida, but I'm not a South Florida attorney.
I got it. What I do want to talk about is your new hairdo, because it looks like you're trying to fit in with the Jack Hanks. I shave my head every summer routine because it's 118 degrees. Can you talk about that a little bit, Chad?
Yeah, I guess I got the wrong memo. I thought that was part of the deal, that to appear on the podcast, you had to shave your head. Luckily, it looks like it's growing in a little, almost.
I had Chip Rillin on. I should get him to shave his head as well. That'd be a whole thing.
There you go. Yeah, it was a surprise to my kids. They didn't understand what was going on, but just different look. But
bro, it's hot in Boca. It gets muggy and hot, right?
Yeah, it's been a ridiculously hot summer. And everyone says, oh, last summer was the hottest, and this summer's the hottest. But this summer really has been remarkably hot. Just remarkably.
The whole country. So
yeah.
Tell us a little bit about pre-Chad law school, man. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? What your hot interests were? And did you ever think you'd be sitting being in insurance litigation law firm in this stage of your life? Because it's a very niche-y, odd thing, and most people have they never thought they would be here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I went to school at University of Florida. And even though I work for the Miami Hurricanes on the side now, that I guess we'll kind of go into detail about. And then I went to law school. I didn't want to stay in Gainesville anymore, so I came back home to South Florida, and I went to law school at Southeastern, and I had a really good experience there. And I learned how to be a lawyer there, which was I thought it really propelled me and prepared me better for the law firm life. And then out of law school, I joined an insurance defense firm immediately. So I've been doing this type of law for a very long time.
So you were on the carrier side.
I was on the carrier side,
okay.
And I got
there we go.
Yeah, and I got exposed to first party and third party insurance defense. So it was a very eye-opening experience. I didn't really know about what insurance defense was before I got into it. I didn't really understand the tripartite relationship where an insurance company is paying for another company's defense, or alternatively, if you're defending the insurance company directly. And so it was really interesting to learn about. And then after a while, it just didn't sit well with me defending the insurance company. So I switched sides in the end of 2014 and been representing the plaintiff, the policyholders side ever since. And my side job was before college, going into radio. I always want to do sports, television, and radio, television,
So you have a face for radio, right?
Say it again.
You have a face for radio.
That's what my professors told me. So that was, that was something that I really appreciated. And I'll talk to my therapist, of course, about that comment as well. But
sure.
Yeah, and so it just kind of translated, and now the side job, if you will. I'm not like no one wants to hear that their lawyer is also someone else, but it's just a small hobby. I do the voice of the Miami Hurricanes for football and men's basketball and women's basketball. I used to do the Marlins, and so it's a nice break from the hustle and bustle of the insurance industry, which especially in Florida has gotten volatile and adversarial, and it's you just crave the relationships that you forged with the defense counsel on the other side that are good people that you can deal with, for sure.
So when you were on the other side, I mean, London Krauss from Daily and Black has a he literally woke up one day and said, I just can't do this anymore because of a case. Is there a defining moment, or was it a buildup, or you just woke up one morning and said, I morally and ethically can't sleep anymore? Or how did that whole work?
So I was heavily representing this particular client in Florida that was so I always believe and preach everyone should stay in their lane, right?
Sure.
The public adjusters who work in Florida and work for these homeowners and business owners do such a great job. And then you have other people who want to venture into public adjusting, and then and vice versa, and things like that. And I'm all about staying in your own lane.
Yep.
So I was working for this client. I was representing this big client in the state of Florida, and they just would not let you be an attorney, meaning they wouldn't even let you give legal advice that they would adhere to. And they would suffer as a result. You would say, you would give them advice to do something on a case that would save them money or save them a bad result, and they just wouldn't listen to you. And it was that type of institutional client that I just couldn't take anymore. Additionally, I couldn't, it was kind of, it didn't give me as much internal fulfillment as it does on this side. Now, of course, look, anyone who tells you that you don't have a business to run and support your family financially is just, blowing smoke. But, I remember the first case when I switched sides. It was this elderly woman. She was on the west coast of Florida. She just lost her husband, and she had a huge flood in her house. And we were going to mediation, and it was right after I switched sides. And we're going to mediation, and we end up, the defense counsel was a very smart attorney, wonderful to deal with, advocated on behalf of her client very well. Like just the type of circumstance, the professional circumstance that you want to deal with in this industry. And we ended up settling the case. And not only did she give me a huge hug, she gave the defense attorney a huge hug. She gave the insurance adjuster a huge hug. And it was just really fulfilling to be on this side of it, where this woman is going to have her life put back together. So, that's kind of my story, I guess, if you will. But yeah.
Is it a thing of arrogance on the other side, or non-caring, or fiscal driven? I'm sure it's all of that, right? Not just one thing, right? I mean,
I think that I think that it's all of that. And I think that there's also a lot of gossip that you hear on both sides, and it develops a preconceived notion of when you deal with a specific attorney, or you deal with a specific public adjuster, or you deal with a specific insurance adjuster, that people can't always see past. And so I think that's what occurred, is that there would be these lists where no matter what the claim was about, it was always red flagged. It would always be an examination under oath. It would always be this huge investigation because of you know, it was in Miami-Dade County or things like that. And of course, the legislature, of course, the insurance companies have to watch out for fraudulent claims. But in Florida, it's just that trigger word that everyone uses, and it's not a widespread institution as they want to compel the normal market to know.
Sure.
It's their trigger word every legislative session, and that's not really the focus. So I think that it goes hand in hand with everything else. So yeah, I think it's arrogance. I think it's ignorance. I think that if you don't know both sides, you think of the other side as something that it's not. And so
Right.
I feel very fortunate that I know, you know, the plight that a defense attorney has to go through to get authority and to deal with their insurance adjuster client.
So those
And
relationships have to help you now, right? From the you did before. I mean, I'm sure they carried over, right? And that you can. I mean, empathy is a big deal, right?
yeah, I'd like to think so, but you know, the thing is that a lot of the people that you deal with on the defense feel the same way you do about the defense, and then they move to the
Well,
plaintiff side. So those relationships get more and more, you know, less and less. So
does anybody ever go from our side to the defense side? I've never heard of that. Usually, the it's a one-way street. I've never seen anybody go backwards or not.
I've seen a couple people go backwards. The thing about, just personally speaking, I've never had the amount of stress that I have on the plaintiff side. I never had it on the defendant side.
Well, sure.
And I think that it's just a much more personal relationship, obviously, that's going on with the client. As a defense lawyer, you want to do a good job for your client. You want to follow the law and be and advocate for your client. But the emotion is able to be compartmentalized a lot better. So I think it's not for everyone, and it is a niche.
Yeah.
It is a niche.
And you're dealing with, I mean, unlimited checkbooks typically on some of these guys. I mean, they'll spend 200-300 grand just to grind it down to a halt, so they don't have to pay anything. So there's unlimited resources, and we're fighting. You know, we're throwing pebbles against dragons here, man. It's crazy. You know what I mean?
It is tough, but there is some satisfaction against going with the David and Goliath metaphor. But you know, the other thing is that the defense will tell you, oh, you're not going to just get a settlement just because you filed a lawsuit, and you shouldn't. I agree with that.
Right.
But I think that because you file a lawsuit, the case should be looked at differently and may warrant an early settlement. So
Right.
I think that is the differentiation, if you will.
So if you file 100 complaints against insurance carriers, how many of those actually go in the courtroom?
Well, you know, before COVID, it was very, very little, but the courts in Florida have put together basically rocket dockets where they're trying to excel every case within 1 year of filing. So it puts a lot of pressure on attorneys on both sides. I probably am a lot grayer in the last year or so because of that situation, and just puts a lot of pressure. It puts a lot of pressure on the judges. It puts a lot of pressure on the attorneys. Puts a lot of pressure on the insurance companies to meet these deadlines that aren't as comfortable as you would like. So yeah.
So COVID did that, huh?
Yeah, but so to answer your question, a lot more are going to trial because they're just kind of being forced into trial. But you know, look, the best thing that everyone can do to save money is try to mediate and come to an agreement that's good for everyone.
Right. And then bad faith isn't a thing hardly, right? I mean, how many times you win bad faith out of 100? Very, very few, I'm guessing.
Well, you know, look, Florida is of the mind, you know, Florida wants to protect its corporations, which I get. And they kind of, in this last legislative session, even did more to decrease the bad faith statute in Florida. And so, you know, more and more, you're thinking, well, if it gets to a point where you're litigating like in a state where, for example, North Carolina, they don't have attorney's fees like Florida does. They have a bad faith statute, but the bad faith statute is not as good as the one in Florida. And the bad faith statute, what it does is it opens up the opportunity to level the playing field. And I know that that's kind of a
quote unquote, right?
Yeah, it's like a term of art in our industry, and it's really true because there's nothing else. The insurance companies in a lot of other states take advantage of the insured because they know that no one is going to fight them because they don't have the ability to.
Well, it's amazing. So I don't think a lot of roofers and PAs also don't understand that most of the claims, like in Illinois, are not driven by the damage. It's driven by the lack of statutes, the crappy laws, and we forget, like in Illinois, Allstate and State Farm home offices are there, so there's a lot of money going through that economy. So it's very politically driven what the state statutes are, and Florida's becoming more and more friendly for the insurance companies. We see it on every day somebody's posting about something, right, on Facebook. So
yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the propaganda is not equal, and the insurance companies do, to their credit, they do have to fight off some of the nonsense. I mean, they really do. And this is their way of doing it. And the weird thing about Illinois, though, is that you can be a PA and a general contractor on the same thing. So
there's a couple states, Arizona's the same way. As a PA, I have a huge problem with that because I'm solely looking out for the best interest of my insured, right? If I'm a contractor on the same claim, my interest lies in my profit and loss statement, and those two things aren't cohesive a lot, right?
Yeah, I don't I don't understand I don't understand the process there. The idea behind public adjusting in Florida, at least to my understanding, and I was a young kid back then, but I hear Chip Merlin talk about it all the time, after Hurricane Andrew.
Yeah.
And it was just about advocacy on behalf of the client so that I wouldn't have to get to litigation.
Well, up until a few years ago, you could, as a PA, I could name myself as an appraiser on my own file.
Sure. Yeah.
What the hell?
That situation still boggles my mind in Florida with I don't know how many of your listeners or viewers know that in Florida, you can't, on a lot of situations, you can't serve as a PA and an appraiser. And it just, it's just one more debilitating thing when the insured has to reach into their own pocket, so to speak, and hire one more individual to get their claim paid the way that it should be. So, but again, I think that the volatility is what precipitates all that, is that no one trusts anyone anymore, especially in Florida.
So let's talk about, this is a good segue, man. So the last, year or two, you guys have, you're starting to get your asses kicked in a little bit. You're being like the rest of us over here in these other states without these awesome laws. I mean, the 25% rule's gone. The door knocking thing almost got knocked out. The AOB thing's a disaster now. Can you kind of go through the highlights of the big legislation changes that have gone through in Florida and be very specific on what it does to roofing companies, public adjusters, and how attorneys have to handle stuff differently now? Because the landscape is almost a 180, right, from what it was 3-4 years ago, right? I mean,
and the other thing is that the statutes that were put together are being fought. So you don't know, as a lawyer advising your client, exactly the way to run it because they're being challenged right now. So, for example, right, going back a little bit, we had a statute that was put in that before a homeowner files a lawsuit against an insurance carrier, they have to do what is a notice of intent of filing. It's modeled after the Texas
civil remedies notice, right?
Exactly, but it's not exactly, and it doesn't serve the same function. So they took kind of the bits and pieces from Texas, which has been successful in Texas, and kind of muddied the waters, in my personal opinion. So they allow an insurance company 10 business days to make a decision on your notice of intent to litigate. They can either approve the demand, they can either respond to it in kind and counter, they can just keep their position, or in certain cases, they can also request an inspection for another 14 business days, which allows the investigation to go on even further. Not only that, but you still, before a lawsuit is filed, and arguably after, you still have to comply with all these post-loss obligations. So it gives the insurance company an opportunity to further investigate, to extend that amount of time. Because in the state of Florida, you only have 90 days from the date of the claim to accept or deny or pay.
Okay.
So that's one of them. But moving forward more recently in the special session, and this has kind of been discussed a lot, but pertaining to assignment of benefits, right?
Yep.
You can no longer get attorney's fees for assignment of benefit claims.
What a game
mitigation
changer.
Companies and things like that. It creates a lot of confusion, and basically the client, the homeowner, is taking on the claim of the mitigation company and taking on their own claim and putting everything forward. So you have a lot more people
That's
involved.
only on an AOB, right?
Yeah, only on an AOB. Luckily, knock on wood, that attorney's fee statute that is valuable to the homeowner and the business owners in the state of Florida, to level the playing field, and is still intact, with a few exceptions of when a judgment is rendered and things like that, not to get too much in the minutia of that, which hasn't really even been figured out yet, because no case has been taken to trial and then on a notice of intent. So still, we don't really know.
Back before this all happened, a roofing company who had an AOB on a roof claim in West Palm could call you, say, Chad, I have a claim, I'm hiring you. You would win the claim. Homeowner gets 100. The judge would award you separately attorney fees above beyond that. So you get a check and the homeowner gets a check, and they're able to get their roof done, right? So now my understanding is, if the AOB is in place and a roofer gets you on, that your number comes out of the top number, like 100 grand's now 75 or 80 or whatever it is, because your number's coming off the top, right? That's the idea to this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the idea behind it was just to get the roofers out of the legal system, and I'm not sure if they've accomplished that or not. Only time will tell. And certainly, like, look, the roofers, and in every industry, there's good and bad apples, and
100%.
that's the situation, and the good is being punished for the bad, and that's the issue. And you spoke about the 25% rule that allows a roof, basically if more than 25% of a roof is damaged in any one period of a year, the entire thing has to be replaced. And I'm paraphrasing that. That's not the exact way to say it. But they've done away with that. I mean, if the roof is after 2007 Florida Building Code, that doesn't apply anymore, which is fine, except the fact that, well, who's measuring the 25%? Is anyone really going and counting every single shingle on the roof? How are they going
pre or post 2007? I'm sorry, Chad.
I'm sorry?
Is it pre or post 2007? The roof.
The 25% does not apply to the post 2007.
So a roof built in 2006, it still does.
Yeah. So if it's required to comply with the current Florida Building Code.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anything after 2000, so anything that's a 15-year-old roof, man. That's, oh my God.
Yeah, and that the other thing is that the hurricane claims are no longer allowed to be made up to 3 years after the date of loss, or only be able to made 2 years up to 2 years after the date of loss. So that means that look, people just don't know. If your house is not decimated by a hurricane, you're not going to know, and you may not know for a little while. And that's going to be a problem when the next hurricane comes in. But again, it will cut down on the amount of late claims, which will help homeowners hopefully get paid faster, because insurance companies won't be quote unquote prejudiced by the late reporting. I guess if you're looking for the silver lining.
Yeah. So on the AOB thing, if a consumer insured hires you directly, would you get awarded attorney fees on that case if the roofer's not involved?
Yeah, so the policyholder is still able to get attorney's fees and costs.
Okay.
They are still able to, if they're successful, and successful in the state of Florida is settling or going to a trial and getting a judgment in their favor.
So on the are the AOB still legal in Florida, or this is a big huge caveat now to them?
So my understanding is that the AOBs are still legal, but there's of no consequence to do them, because there's if you're having a water mitigation bill of $2,500, the likelihood of a lawyer taking that on a $2,500 30% contingency fee or whatever that is, the economics don't bode well. So I think that they're going to do a lot of different things. I think it's going to encourage mitigation companies to file liens against homeowners. And
immediately,
excuse me. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I mean, I'm looking at the list of things that they changed in the last legislative session, and I think some of them the idea was very good, but the execution is poor. The other change that they made was that, and this doesn't really apply to public adjusters, but carriers can no longer refuse to insure the home with a roof that is less than 15 years old because of the age of the roof. So if the age of the roof is at least 15 years old and the carrier requires a replacement of the roof, the homeowner can have a roof inspection to contest it, right? But the thing is that they'll just deny it on a different angle, because I've had 2 clients already do that.
Okay.
And there's no private cause of action for this type of non-renewal. And the other issue with this is that I think we've had 8 insurance companies go under, recently. So
did they pull out or completely go out of business in Florida?
Well, so some have pulled out. Bankers most recently. UPC I don't think is writing in Florida anymore. UPC is definitely not writing in Florida anymore. But a lot have gone bankrupt. Lighthouse went bankrupt recently because they went bankrupt in Louisiana. Weston Insurance just got approved for liquidation, I believe. And I think there are only 20,000 policies in the state of Florida, but that's still a sizable amount. So homeowners are being rejected for roofs, and also at the same time not having a lot of choices. And of course, the other side blames the public adjusters and the roofers and the attorneys, and the attorneys, our side will point the finger the other way. And, the consumers are getting injured right now because of the fact that I think that there's not enough understanding of both sides. It seems a little one-sided right now.
Well, it seems to be a big pendulum swinging, which is not good for our side. But I would say the AOB thing, I mean, not to be selfish, it's helping us public adjusters. I mean, we're getting a lot more work there, just because, if you guys can't get paid, we're a hell of a lot cheaper. We can do everything but file a lawsuit, right? That's the only thing we can't do as a wonderful public adjuster, right? So it's
sure, but I think it also hurts I agree with you, and I think that it hurts the consumer in that there's just too many things having to be developed in that claim, right? There's too many things to fight about in that one claim.
Yep.
Not only are you fighting about mitigation, but you're also fighting about the build back and emergency services and things like that. It confuses the issue. I think that's going to be the problem. But yeah, of course. I mean, I think that it will, again, help keep people in their lanes, right? The public adjusters will be able to help the homeowners of the entire claim, and you guys will basically be the quarterbacks. You'll know exactly what's going on in every aspect of the claim, because you have to.
Well, too, a lot of the problem too is a lot of public adjusting firms. We won't mention any names till I get a couple of glasses of wine in me. Don't work they're running for lawyers, attorney firms. Not you guys, or not the ones I work with, not the ones we all know, but there's some law firms out there. Basically, the PAs are just the runners. That's literally against the law. Like, I can't go out and just grab a claim on behalf of Chad and hand it over. We have to physically work that file, as we should. I mean, we have a moral and ethical obligation to do so. And you know as well as I do that a lot of these guys are not doing that, and that's what's causing a lot of this uproar. Once again, it's that 5% on both sides that suck, right? There's 5% PAs suck, 5% attorneys suck, 5% of homeowners suck, 5% of insurance companies, adjusters, and lawyers on their side suck. So that's what's creating the freaking case. 90% of us are cool, right? We get it settled, we're good. We're not banging anybody over the head with it. We're not dragging them to trial maliciously. We just want to get it settled to get the claim right. And it's that 5% extreme on both sides that are basically, like Steve Badger says, killing the golden goose, which is, I actually agree with him on that. And it drives me insane. I mean, you do some of our trainings, and we have guys in there that 20, 25 people rolling in for these trainings, and they've been doing it for 6-7 years. They don't know half the rules and statutes of what we're supposed to be doing. And it's like, dudes, you can't just write an estimate and turn it in and then roll it to an attorney. You got to have some sort of moral obligation to work these claims a little bit. It's very frustrating, dude. That's what's causing a lot of this.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you and Steve. I think that it has to do with a lack of training, and which is good that you guys and some other notable firms in the country put together trainings to help public adjusters really work on their craft. And yeah, I mean, look, no one likes the runners on both sides, and we all know it occurs, and I don't know. My whole thing is if it quacks like a duck, then that's the situation. So it's not good for anyone. I don't think. Look, the thing is that if a homeowner doesn't have a claim, don't create one. I never understood that. Defense or policyholder, I never understood that. Like it's just, the thing is that, okay, you're running a claim. I remember this one case when I was a defense lawyer. It was a water leak under the slab, and the homeowner reported it. The runner reported it for the homeowner, created some date of loss, and then the expert was given the wrong date of loss. So the expert's report predated the date of loss.
Oops.
And the homeowner was caught in the middle of it because the homeowner didn't know what was going on. So it creates a lot of issues for a lot of different people. And the people who benefit are the ones who are doing the wrong thing. So yeah, I mean, I think that it's important to realize that most people who are in our business don't do that.
Yep.
And you can be successful and be a good business owner in this industry without doing stuff like that. So
You're good, right?
Yeah, I that annoys me. I lament with my other plaintiff attorney friends about that, because it's easy not to do that and still be successful.
To do it right. I mean, number one, it's hard work, right? We all work our asses off. I know you do, man. I mean, we talked on Sundays before about claims, and we work hard, but I can go to bed at night knowing that we gave everything we got, and we may not win all the time, but I can still look in the mirror like we gave 100% effort. That's all you can ask for. But man, it's just, the shady crap is just, in the insurance companies, you saw that one PA firm in Louisiana. I'm not gonna name it. I
saw that, yeah.
I mean, first thing Badger did on LinkedIn was start posting that. Right within seconds. Like, see these motherfuckers that I'm like, I get it, man. It validates everything they think of us as an industry. Like, PAs are looked at as used car salesmen sometimes, because some of us deserve that label. And I'm us, we're trying to do everything we can to change that. And It's so freaking frustrating. Like I got a claim yesterday, Chad, in Jackson, Mississippi. It's probably a $3 million claim. The original PA had it settled at $700,000. And dude, you can't even, the roof is collapsed on a shopping center, bro. And it's saturated and it's sitting there since April and it's still wet. And that lady's like, what do I do? And like, thank God her attorney jumped in and got rid of the other PA, got us in, and we're going to do it right. But that guy just wanted 70 grand and got lost. He didn't really care. It's bullshit, right? It happens all the time.
Yeah, the thing that I always find interesting is that you don't learn how to do it the wrong way. I mean, you learn how to do it the right way, and then you make a conscious effort to do it the wrong way, or figure out a way to do it the wrong way. And we've had in Florida, we had an attorney who was the poster child for this, allegedly, because I don't think anything was set in stone yet, but the insurance companies took it as an opportunity to utilize it. And the thing is that that's what they should do, right? Yeah. And the more important aspect is, what can we do as an industry to continue to not have that broad brush painted, so frequently. And the only thing that I try to do is, every claim I try to do it to the best of my abilities, the right way, communicate with the client, make sure the client, I think of every one of my clients as family. I mean, I get stressed out when they have water coming into their house and they need to do something about it. And so it is stressful. I mean, and it makes you want to be a better lawyer, and makes you want to resolve it for them. So you don't need to do, I always advocate for that you don't need, my wife calls me the Boy Scout, because there's a book, right? There's a book, and then and then there's what I do. So I do it by the book of the book. So
well, that's the way it should be, though, brother, right? You know what I mean?
Of course.
That's why we all get along so well in our little group. So
yeah,
I want to
no,
talk about the direct
absolutely.
repair programs too. Can you talk a little bit about the managed repair programs? And I think they're going to come hard and heavy the next 5 or 6 years. So I started doing this in 1992, not 1892.
Yeah.
But I used to be a State Farm vendor,
Yeah.
and a farmer's vendor, and a Nationwide vendor, and a Safeco vendor, and a Liberty Mutual vendor. And I thought I was on the king of the freaking hill. And then State Farm started this. What year was that? Probably in, God, my kids, probably 2001, 2002. I became the State Farm premier vendor in Scottsdale, Arizona. And all these homes out here, as you know, are multi-million-dollar golf course homes. Sure. So we were like, shit, man, this is going to be my early retirement. And we started getting claims, and then we would get the claimant from State Farm, and then they would give us the Home Depot order where to go buy the materials for it. And we go pick it up, and then we get there, these multi-million-dollar homes, and they have 6 or 7 inch base trim, and Home Depot's giving us 3 1/4 and all these things. And next thing you know, I had to hire admins to help with the paperwork, because the paperwork was so deep. And I think I ended up losing about $1 million that year just on the State Farm program, because my overhead went through the roof, man. It was crazy. So
it is. Yeah, it's it is a problematic feature. I think in theory it is a wonderful situation, but in practice it just doesn't come off as well. Some insurance carriers in the state of Florida do it better than others. But look, there's
how many of them have it now, Chad?
Well, the ones that actually do it, let's see, there People's Trust does it, Tower Hill, sometimes Heritage. Avatar did it before they went under. So there's probably like 4 or 5. Security First tries to do it, so maybe like 4 or 5. They don't. People's Trust does it pretty much exclusively in every case that's covered.
And they own their own. They have basically their own construction firm and the whole. Right, it's a whole deal, right?
Well, it's a little confusing how they intertwine, but yeah, it's something like that. But the thing is that in every policy, it does say we have the option of repair. It's just not as spelled out as in all insurance policies. The thing that I always equate it to is that HMOs, for example, make you go to specific doctors, right? You don't get to choose your doctor. They choose it for you. This is the same concept, right? So I think you should have the option, just like an HMO or a PPO, to pay more to choose your own vendor if it comes to that, right? But you should have the option, because the fact of the matter is that some of these preferred vendors don't have roofing license, but are told to do roofs. Some of these preferred vendors are not vetted. And you're being forced to let people in your house that you haven't vetted, that you're not allowed to vet. And that if you choose not to have them come in your house, then you're breaching the insurance policy, which there was a case that just came out like last week, that the homeowner did not allow the repairs to go forward and breach the policy. So it's very confusing in the state of Florida, because you're not really even allowed to contest it anymore. That's basically what this case says. You're not allowed to contest it. There's other case law that says you're allowed to contest the scope, but you still have to have them repair it.
So the carrier sued the insured?
No, the insured sued the carrier.
Okay.
And the carrier, I think, either filed a motion for summary judgment or something like that, and then it was appealed. And the appellate court said that you have to let them come in. There's no question. You can't stop them from coming in.
Wow.
And so, this is something that we've been the plaintiff's trial bar has been fighting over the past couple of years, especially because of the fact that it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, other than the fact that the insurance companies want to save money by having these contractual relationships with how much a roof is going to cost on such and such date. How much is a kitchen going to cost on such and such date, which is fine, right? But you got to care about like, kind, and quality. You got to care about the fact of the workmanship. And some of these companies are just very, very, the reason why they're preferred vendors is because they can't get work elsewhere.
Right. So who's running the scope? The adjuster? For the carriers running the scope of damages, correct? Or is the contractor writing it?
So with People's Trust, for example, you can go to appraisal. If you don't agree with the scope, you can go to appraisal, and the scope is determined in appraisal, and then the repairs are done. So in theory, that's okay. I mean, in theory, I guess that works. But with some of the other ones, yeah, you're having scope and pricing. For Citizens, sometimes they don't even give you the pricing, so you can't evaluate if it's like, kind, and quality. You just kind of have to wait and see. And so I think that's kind of the issues with the managed repair that we've always been preaching about, is that, like, okay, let's do it the right way. Let's see if they want if a homeowner wants an option to choose their own contractor in the event that they have a loss. And that goes down to education, down to the agent level. And I think that, a lot of homeowners, when they decide on insurance policies, just say, give me the cheapest one. Give me the one that's going to, that's how you get DP1 policies or HO8 policies, because, these are the ones that are going to fulfill the mortgage company's requirements. But when you have a loss, aren't going to cover anything.
Have you seen the ones where, like, I know Allstate and a couple other ones have a predetermined roof schedule? It's right on your policy. It's like, here you go.
Yeah. So Giovera, which is a surplus policy, had a roofing schedule, and I was absolutely floored by the fact. So I had a client who had a 15-year-old roof. It was fully covered, but it was a 55% roof schedule. So they basically walked away with $800 after, or not after a deductible, because it was a hurricane claim, right? Yeah. So they take the hurricane claim, and by the time it's reduced, you're basically reducing it 85–90%. Yeah. So it's horrific that this is not explained, right? If someone makes the choice to get these policies, then okay,
buy everywhere.
Yep. But
I mean, a lot of these are basically self-insuring your roof is what you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you're doing. I've seen it, but like the same, we get these in every day. It's like, ma'am, by the time, even if I win, you're not going to have anything. You're better off getting a financing thing with solar and be done with it, because there's no money here, like none, like it's not what we're doing. And they don't get it. And it's these agents, once again, I think it's both. I think the insured walks in the door like we all do, say, hey, I have a home, I want insured for 400,000. Can we get it for as cheap as I can, right? And that's what they do. And I think we're all guilty of it. Same, I mean, I do it with my cars and everything else. I don't want to pay out the schnoz for
no, of course.
But
yeah.
and this is because it's never going to happen to me, right? And then next thing you know, wham, you get screwed, and it's horrible. And it's not. I don't. How long do you think it's going to go on for? A long time, right? I mean,
I think what's going to happen is that I hesitate to say this on a public forum, but I think that reinsurance is going to possibly require it in order to reduce the rates of reinsurance. They'll have this option so that there's no type of issue, moving forward with how much a claim could pay. And I think that the risk assessment on the homeowner side in the state of Florida has to get a lot better. Again, it comes down to education. The most frequent thing that I've experienced on the policyholder side is this exact statement, especially with a company like State Farm, for example. Oh, I've been insured by State Farm for 35 years. I paid my premiums on time. I cannot understand why they're not covering me for this particular claim. And I have to explain to them that it's based upon the language of the contract that they signed up for. It's not based upon, oh, you paid into this pool for 35 years and now it's time to collect. That's just not how it works. And
right.
The famous line that the defense uses, and I was guilty of it too, I always used it too, is that it's not a warranty for your house, it's an insurance policy, and it covers different things. But that goes along the lines of the insurance agent taking the time to discuss with the client, like, hey, look, another thing that's prevalent in Florida, which is quite scary for a homeowner, if you get a water loss in your house, you are only going to get $10,000, no matter what the cost of the loss is, right?
Right.
I mean, it's very daunting, but you don't know that until you make the claim later on down the road, because no one reads insurance policies except us, because we have to.
Well, and a lot of PAs, a lot of attorneys, a lot of roofers don't read the insurance policy either till after I get calls every week. Hey, man, I just did this roof. My bill's $56,000 as an ACV policy. I'm like, well, you just ate $18,000, brother. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or get
right.
it. Yeah. Hey,
or the limitations on water mitigation or any of those things.
You brought up an interesting point. Not many people understand the concept of reinsurance. They think these insurance companies are just stroking these checks and eating it. Well, that's not the case, right? Can you explain what and that's in reinsurance is a huge driving force in settlement of claims. Huge, probably one of the biggest factors.
Yeah,
can you explain what that is?
Yeah, reinsurance is just basically the insurance for the insurance companies. It's who. So, for example, when we had Hurricane Irma in September of 2017, a lot of these insurance companies were really excited because they were utilizing their reinsurance because it's for catastrophic losses. So they would pay a claim and then they would go to their reinsurance carrier and basically get reimbursed. But these reimbursements create more risk, and the carriers are looking at several different things in the state of Florida, and reinsurance goes way up and it's harder to get and harder to qualify for. And then you have financial ratings that play a part in it. And that's like a 100-day podcast all by itself, just on financial ratings. So they look at all these factors, and if an insurance company cannot get reinsurance, it puts them in a very, very bad financial position.
Right. So basically, they have to prove the loss. It's almost they have to prove the loss to their insurance company to get reimbursed, basically. And if they can't do it, they're going to eat that, right? That's why it's such a pain in the ass.
Yeah, pretty much. And reinsurance companies, one day it's fantastic, the next day it's not. So I don't know. There's so many things that as a homeowner or a business owner, you don't care about. You just care about an insurance policy. And then if you look at the actual statistics, then you kind of understand what's going on. But yeah, I don't know how. And the thing is that I'm a geek about this stuff, so I like talking about it. But I don't know how many people are just like, oh, this is the most painful conversation I've ever experienced in my entire life. So,
well, no, I mean, insurance is a business. They're not paying out on fire and hurricane claim because they want to. They're doing it because they have to. If you think about the business model, man, and when I talk about this in our training, my philosophy is that insurance companies anymore are marketing firms. That's all they are, right? They're out to get as much premium as they can. Aaron Rodgers and Chris Paul and all these other dudes, every commercial is insurance, right? The ostrich for Nation, that's all it is, right? And Flow, they're marketing branding companies, and they're out there collecting these premiums, and then they can control what they bring in, and then on the backside, they control what they're going to pay out. It's like if you could tell your mortgage company, hey man, I had a slow month this month, I'm only going to pay a third of my mortgage. Well, that won't go over very well, but they literally can control the faucet. If you think about it, it's crazy.
And not only that, but they're taking your money that they collected in premiums, they're investing it in other things and making money off your money, and then refusing to pay legitimate claims. So yeah, look, the business model is amazing, and that's why when insurance company goes out of business, I depending upon the insurance company, sometimes I'm not surprised, but it is such a lucrative model that no matter what, no matter how many claims are made, if you are, some people are going to just completely disagree with me, and that's okay, but if you are using the proper actuarial tables and the risk assessment situation, you're going to be fine. The problem that I've seen is that the insurance companies in Florida did not periodically raise the premiums in the way that they should have, because they enjoyed such a long period of time without a catastrophic disaster.
Yeah, man.
And then as time went on, they realized, oh man, we have to jack this up, and then just time after time after time. So they're playing catch up, right? Yep. The car insurance carriers have it down because there's just more cars there. It's easier to tell, what an average loss is going to cost the insurance company. But I'm hopeful that because of recent legislative changes, especially in Florida and some other states, you hope that it's going to even out. But there are some consumer-driven states left in the country, which is good to hear.
Less than a handful.
Yeah, it's promising, and I guess where to move if you have to. Although you go all over, you just go all over, and so you're in those states too.
Yeah, I mean we make our money in probably 5 or 6 states. The other ones we just try to service the best we can, because it's a crap, that's what we do. It. What I found is that the shitter, consumer friendlier, the more insurance friendly states, we do a lot of appraisals there, just because that we can, it's a strategic move for us to make sure we have some sort of income on those claims, because a lot of guys will get, like in Texas, there's a 10% fee cap. Same thing on, when a cat hits Florida, we're capped at 10%, which is fine. But on a $3,600 or $36,000 roof claim, we collect $3,600. By the time I pay my guys, my commission, my overhead, my Xactimate, my Eagle View, my estimator, it's about $11 left. So it's really, 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 and same for you guys. It's really, really, really hard to make money on small claims. And unfortunately, we are, as you are, we have to be for-profit businesses to run the business. And this public adjusting is a business. Being a plaintiff attorney is a business, and we have to look out for that. And we turned on a lot of claims in here, probably, I don't know, close to 25 to 35, 40 a month. And I it's hard, because I actually tell them, here's why I can't do the claim. Yes, you have damage. Yes, the roof is, it's probably $23,000 roof, but the math doesn't work out for me, man. Like, but if we can get you into appraisal and I can get $1,250 for the appraisal and we break even, that's okay. You know what I mean? But I can't, smaller ones just eat you up in your time and your money, and it's horrible. And the insurance know that.
The heart-wrenching part about, and you know, I help out some policyholders outside of the state of Florida, so I'm able to experience, you know, some of the states that don't have attorney's fees, and it's gut, you know, for example, and I won't even, I'll just say this, I have a friend who does first-party property in Indiana, and the thing he has to tell every homeowner who has a public adjuster on the file is basically, no matter what, your best day in court is 50%.
Yeah.
And it's heart-wrenching because, you know, at the end of the day, they're not going to have enough to do the work that they need to do, because at the end of the day, it's their claim. It's their opportunity to fix their life. And I always have that in mind. I mean, there's, you know, you have to, this is a people business at the end of the day. These are human beings who have suffered a loss. And I think that we don't keep that in mind. I think that frequently ego gets involved, and it's, you know, I'll get off my.
Well, no, one thing I've been preaching the last year or so is, and I'm not great at it, is empathy. And so what happens is, I've been doing this for so long, I can roll in New Orleans, a category 4 or category 5 hurricane blows through Homa and the Plaza and all these places. And all I'm doing is trying to pick up contracts to grow my business and take care of these people. And I forget that I'm a year into it on the hurricane side, still doing claims. And a lot of our clients are barely even either getting home now or not even close to getting home. And I go home to my nice house and my, you know, my nice life, and I can go home, I can spend 3 months there and go home. But as an industry, we forget, man, how people's lives are, I mean, dude, divorces and alcoholism and drug abuse and psychiatric issues, because their life on that particular moment in time got destroyed, and all their shit is gone, all their memories are gone, and then they have no place. They have to go live in a hotel or a condo or a wherever the hell. And do we as an industry suck at that? We suck at the empathy part of it, because it is a job, and I get that. But I really, really try to take a deep breath, and I got to catch myself by making sure that Mrs. Smith understands that she's important to us and we care and we want to do good, and we're here to help her and listen. But man, you know how it goes. You're on your 18th phone call for the day, and you can't hear about the shingles anymore, man, because you're wiped out. But then again, that's all she has, and we're her last clinging hope. And I really hope the industry starts to, I mean, I think it's getting better, but man, it's, you know, man, it's like on Friday afternoon, are you just sick of talking about claims? It's hard, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you know, the thing that I said something to, I said something like that to an insurance adjuster today. I was trying to resolve a claim, and it was about ALE, additional living expenses, and I said that the woman had to move out. It was like a kitchen claim, I think it was. The woman had to move out, and she goes, well, why? And I go, well, because she has a daughter with Down syndrome, and the daughter is very sensitive to, you know, building dust and things like that. And she's like, well, you can just seal it off, and it wasn't, you know, it wasn't about the comfort of the human being. You know, we weren't looking for additional living, like they weren't going to stay at, you know, the 5-star hotel. They were just looking for some accommodations to help them out. And no one wanted to see that. And you know, look, the good thing is that juries see that, right? The juries see them as see you as people most of the time. So that is fortunate. But look, we're all people. And the thing that I do is, if it's a Friday afternoon and someone wants to talk to me and I just can't deal with it, I tell them, look, it's a Friday afternoon. I need like an hour. Just give me an hour and I'll call you after. Or if you want to talk on the weekend, like if I just need a night, I'm forthcoming with them. And I think that I gain the trust of my client too, because they know that I'm not trying to deal from an authoritative type of position.
Right.
Like I'm a person to, I just have a different, I just went to a different school, right?
Yep.
And that's kind of how I try to approach it. And just continue to remember that. I mean, we're all going to be in bad moods, and yeah, and we're all going to try to have to explain to a client that's crying on a Friday afternoon why their insurance company won't pay them what they believe they're entitled to.
Yep.
And what we believe they're entitled to. And after a while, you get sick and tired of making up excuses. It's just they don't want to pay. They want to fight you. That's it.
And some people have a hard time digesting that. And I'm like, you know what? There's literally nothing more I can do. They're not going to write a check. They're just not going to do so.
Yeah.
And I used to think when I used to turn my claims over to attorneys, I thought we were letting our client down, or now we're preempting that, and we're warning them like, hey, we may get you to third base, but I can't get you home. So that's why we have to bring in a law firm in it. It's not a defeat. It's just the next phase of that claim. It's how you have to think of it, So
yeah, I think that as time has gone on, we've seen so many natural disasters, especially in the United States, that it's hard to know how you can help people. I mean, aside from being a lawyer and a public adjuster, how could, like, I'm not, for example, the Kentucky floods that just happened and killed 26 people. That is just it's just mind-boggling to me. I'm not licensed in Kentucky, right? I don't know, and so I donate, but is that enough? I don't know. So I agree with you that the humanistic side of our industry has to get better, and I think it will. I think that people are trying to hustle and create their businesses, which is fantastic, and at the end of the day, I think that they understand that it's driven by people. I think that the successful people know that it's driven by people. Like I look at the people that are very successful in our industry, or that I think that are successful, like Chip, for example.
Yeah.
He's like the godfather of the attorney industry in the state of Florida. I mean, I don't think that there was one before him who did first party. And he's a people person. I mean, he understands that people are driving this. So, I want to, I think that will be a drive for survival too. That's just how that's what I think. But that could also be the product of working the entire day and then doing the podcast at night and seeing if your brain actually functions.
All right, we got one more question here. So
yeah,
if you could go your freshman year in Florida, you go back and all your experience, I don't want you to change anything because you have a really cool life and your family's awesome. But if you could give your young Chad Robinson some advice that you've learned that you didn't think was even a thing back then, what if you grab yourself at the back of the neck and look, hey dude, here's some advice that you really need to have, what would that be? And how deep is that question, by the way?
Say it again.
How deep is that question? That's pretty deep.
I like it. Look, I didn't expect it from you, Jack.
I know, right?
I didn't expect. I'll tell you what I would say. I was watching something from Tom Hanks. I know. It's like, Tom? Oh yeah, the deepest person on the face of no, but he said something that was interesting to me. He said that for those times that are so hard that you don't think that time is an ally, I would say, and that for those times that are hard for you, it will pass, and for those times that are good for you, those will pass too. And it's just important to try to get through those good and bad times with dignity and respect and some type of sanity to come out on the other side. So I think that's what I would say is that, I come from I utilize my anxiety to zone in on details, right? And I had the first lawyer I ever worked for. He was a very he was so high energetic, and he always used to tell me the devil is in the details, right? So I utilize that anxiety, but at the same time, if you're an anxious person, it's tough to get through some time. So I would say the time will pass, and the time and it will be okay on the other side.
Nothing's permanent, good or bad.
Yeah. I think that's what I would say. But yeah, that was a deep question.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I think that you just, I think also just be ready for anything, because as much as you start to understand this industry, it changes immediately.
Daily.
And you've been in it for way much longer than I have, and I've been practicing almost 15 years now, and in the last 3 years, especially in Florida, it's been just ridiculous.
No.
I hope it evens out, because it's hard as a lawyer to advise your client when so many things are changing around you. It's very difficult. So,
well, yeah, you could actually think you're doing the right thing, and then it changes, and you're actually doing the wrong thing because you didn't know you're doing the right. You know what I mean? It's that fast.
Yeah, I think when people call me and I like when people call me as a legal resource for questions and help. I really do enjoy that, but at some point you're just like, I don't know the answer. I don't know. They're discussing this. I think this is what applies, and you just gotta make the best decision at that moment in time. So, yeah, absolutely. Jack, what would you say, by the way?
You know what? Have more. So I'm a very patience. Have some patience. That's my biggest thing, and I've learned a lot. So what I learned the last couple of years, I always try to force things, because I always try to put a round hole in a square peg, even if it didn't make sense. I'm like, because it was in my head was always the right. That was if I thought it was the right thing to do, I would force the issue, and then I would get my ass kicked on the other side of it. And dude, you well know as I do that some things just aren't right to do or meant to be in a relationship or business wise, or I still get calls, and my first instinct is to, everything's a great deal. Oh my God, let's do that. So, if it was up to me, we'd be at 96 trade shows and 400 events, and thank God, Doug, my partner, he keeps the reels up on me to keep. I try to make everything work instead of just doing the things that are going to work. Make them just do that. I try to make everything work, and it's not a great thing for me. That's I'm learning a lot, but that's been the toughest lesson the last couple of years. Is everything's not a great deal, and have some patience and invest in something and watch it grow and nurture it, instead of having to be in the fast lane all the time. I don't need to go 150 miles an hour all the time. I can go 120 and still be okay.
Yeah, I've never known anyone to travel as much as you do. It's pretty amazing. I mean, do you have like a time zone clock? Do you?
There's times, I swear to you, I'll wake up, and so what last couple of years, I've been sleeping in hotel rooms with the drape straw open. So when I wake up, I have a semblance of where I'm at, because literally you wake up, and if it's pitch dark, you don't know where the freaking TV is, or the bathroom, or the window, and you don't know where you're at, or what day it is, or what city you're even in, and it's like, oh my God, because we'll be in 3, 4, 5 cities in a week, right? Just bouncing.
Right.
What I've learned to do is make sure that I open the drapes at night, so I sleep with the window open, so I can, at least when I wake up, I have some semblance of where the hell I'm at, because it gets, we get going, we'll run this stuff, and we'll go fast, and it's insane. But I actually, what I like about traveling though is I'm at the point in my career that I can literally, you've seen this, I'll put a post on Facebook, hey man, I'm going to be in West Palm for a few days, and we'll go have a beer, go out, you know what I mean? Or I can meet my attorney buddies, or my roofing buddies, or my general contracting buddies, or my even other PAs. So I'm at the point in my career that I can literally, I'm not trying to be over the top here, but I can have dinner anywhere in the country any night with a client or a buddy of mine that's I've met through this industry. And that's the fun part is having a glass of wine and just talking, learning who they are, and that's what it's all about, is nurturing these relationships is really the cool part of what I do. And I love that part of it, because it's just human connection's cool, and I really, really enjoy that, because I didn't know, I'm more interested about you being the Miami Hurricane broadcast guy at the stadium than I am about you being an attorney, right? That's cool to me. That's cool, right.
Yeah, that's why I mention it, because it's like, how many lawyers do you do you get to, find in this industry? And yeah, of course, look, do I think that I know a lot? Yes. Do I think I know more than most? Yes. But how, I think that I'm probably the only lawyer in this industry that also is the voice of the Miami Hurricanes, if I had to guess. So, yeah, I think that was, that's something that I do like to point out. And also it is more fun to talk about that. I mean, no one wants to drone on and on about the insurance industry because sometimes it's depressing. But
sometimes the Miami Hurricanes are depressing too, Chad.
Well, no comment. But I think that I think that this year it should be very fun to watch. I think that they're making some interesting moves. So we'll see. It'll be a nice break from nice. Hey man, look, one of the best games I ever been to was a Miami Hurricane versus Notre Dame. So
was that the one we were up 31-0? You guys came back and beat us. Was that game? Steve Berline threw the interception. Yeah, I remember that well.
That was one of the best games ever. Yeah,
I remember I was actually at a Miami Hurricane. I remember Tommy Clements was a quarterback. This was like in the early 70s.
Yeah,
and we came into Miami and played. That was before you guys were the U. It was just, I just remember being in I was like 8 years old, man. It was just so much fun being in Miami in a football game. I've been to several since, but that's one of my first memories as a football fan, being in the old stadium, watching Notre Dame with the gold helmets just beat the shit out of you guys. And then, paybacks for hell. We took it on the chin a few different times, but man, what a cool series, Notre Dame, Miami. It's when both those teams were good, that is such good for football, isn't it? It's just a great thing.
Yeah, you want the teams to be good. You don't want when the other big rivalry for Miami is FSU, and when FSU comes in and they're just losing a whole bunch of games, no one wants to see that. Plus, Miami as a whole, right, are not the best fans. We're not known as the best fans around the country. So you always want to be winning so that more people come. But people are real. I mean, the excitement is palpable regarding the University of Miami in this area with the new coach and a lot of new transfers and players. It's going to be a very fantastic.
Well, going 8-4 is a big deal, right? So,
what'd you say?
Going 8-4 is going to be a big deal for you guys. I'm kidding.
Look, they almost won almost won the ACC Coastal. I always forget what division, because I went to Florida, so it's hard for me to remember the details.
SEC East and the ACC, Coastal, all that
Coastal stuff. And what's the other one? I don't know. My brain's malfunctioning, but I think that the other interesting thing to go back about the travel that I found is that it's interesting to see the trends in different parts of the country that can help you with the different parts of the country. Meaning, if you do a claim in Texas, how can that help you with a claim in Florida and vice versa? And how can you put your knowledge in one state to another? I think that's one of the interesting dynamics that you get to explore by branching out.
I mean, it's been great for us. I mean, we're literally getting 6, 7, 8 claims in a day, and it's all over the country. And I enjoy it. I mean, we have, our little business, our little niche in the market, and we're happy, man. I love it. So, better be lucky than good.
That's how it should be. Good people in the industry getting the claims to help the homeowners or the business owners or the condo associations or whatever it is,
Chad, how do people get a hold of you, and what states are you licensed and operating in?
So I am only licensed in Florida, but we do help policyholders in North Carolina, Texas, Colorado, and California currently. We have partnerships with other places. The best email is my name. It's chad@chadrobinson.com. And my phone number, I like to give out my cell phone. So it's 561-800-2903. That's the best way to get in contact with me. I hope that something I said had some semblance of cohesiveness and help someone. It's hard in a 1 hour setting or what have you to really describe all of this, because there's so much detail. There's so much stuff that you have to cipher through and figure out if it's going to be interesting to someone. But
that's what the editing people do. They'll carve it off and make it real good, I promise.
Oh, fantastic. Great. So I can't wait to see. Maybe they can give me some hair back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, dude, we appreciate the relationship. We appreciate you
Jack.
coming on. You guys are great. We've had nothing but great success with you. This thing will be on Amazon, it'd be on iTunes, YouTube. We're all over the place with this thing, man. So rock and roll.
Yeah,
thank
fantastic.
you for everything, and hit us up on this thing. Once again, Chad Robinson, thank you so much. Because Experience Matters podcast. We appreciate it, man. Thank you, Chad.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Because Experience Matters podcast. That's all for today's show. If you want to learn more or work with Jack in person, visit www.thejackhanks.com. Oh, and don't forget to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes or Spotify to continue to grow the podcast and change the industry.